There's a player playing for Athletic Bilbao and the Spain international team with a pretty expensive release clause, and it's not Nico Williams. Of course, I hope we go sign the winger too, but Oihan Sancet's been playing in the middle of midfield with 17 goals this season in La Liga, has been, well, not just La Liga, 15 goals in La Liga, 17 goals in all competitions, has been on fire for Bilbao. I've been calling for Arsenal to sign a number 10, a more let's say dynamic, more kind of powerful midfielder who can do something in the final third, who can be really decisive on the edge of the penalty area too, and this might be the player. Now, if you're asking me whether there are any really concrete links and rumours, if there were, I'd have covered it on the Goonerverse too, just to prove to you that I don't cover any old rumour. But there was a report that did make its way out, and it comes from El Nacional .cat, as you can see here, that they are breaking political economic news from Catalonia, Spain, and internationally as well, with 195,000 followers, followed by John Cena, if that means anything to you. But this was their report, brought to you by Football Transfers, that Mikel Arteta is obsessed with the prolific Athletic Bilbao star Oihan Sancet, according to, of course, that publication there. He's got 17 goals this season. Now, like I said, if this had come from a David Ornstein or something, you know, I'd be all over it, talking about it on the Goonerverse too, and bringing you regular transfer updates on him. But this is a pretty loose link. The reason I want to talk about him, though, is because I think he's perfect. I think, and okay, let me just say, have I watched him week in, week out? Am I an expert on the player? Absolutely not. But I've sort of known him for a few years now, thanks to Football Manager as well. And he's also someone I sort of largely kept an eye on, because I don't think there's many kind of 10s and players with that profile. But also he's quite unique in that he's quite a tall, more, what's the word? He's quite a powerful number 10, and when I say that, I mean he's got a little bit of height and presence about him. He's got someone who's got a little bit of drive. He can sort of turn. He's good with his back to goal. All these things make him quite a unique profile. I don't think there's that many of them out there in the game. When you talk about number 10s, I keep talking about Florian Wirtz or Morgan Gibbs-White, but I struggle for kind of many more beyond that. Let me know in the comment section below if there are other 10s we should be talking about. But I want to go through some of the data we know about this player and why he could be someone who really fits nicely with the complement of midfielders that we've got. He can complement really nicely what we have there in Rice, potentially Zubimendi, Marino, Ødegaard, and more. So let's talk about the player in more detail. His player profile: he's 24 years old, he's an attacking midfielder, he's 6'1", right-footed, with a £69 million release clause from Bilbao, and in 31 appearances in the 24-25 campaign, he's got 17 goals and 3 assists. Now, who scored have Athletic Bilbao is typically playing a 4-2-3-1. This is supposedly their most used formation with their most used players in those areas, and as you can see, Sancet is in the 10. But if I just show you his heat map from SofaScore, you can see, and this makes me so happy, there is a slight bias towards the right, which, if you're wondering why that makes me happy, firstly, we're actually looking for someone to have more of a left-sided bias, I suppose, because Ødegaard's been playing out on the right. I don't think he's going to get replaced anytime soon. But crucially, the fact that he can play in those kind of right channels a little bit more, Sancet, means A, he can complement an Ødegaard in the squad. So say Ødegaard can't play, you bring Sancet in. He seems comfortable in those areas too. You got someone who could play with Ødegaard if you move Ødegaard to the left 8, which I want to see. And someone who can actually give us something different in terms of a right foot with a little bit more presence on that side, which I think Arsenal have been lacking. Now, go check out this video. It's on the La Liga official YouTube channel, shall I say. And it's got all Sancet's goals from La Liga since he started. Go watch them. But what I wanted to do was highlight here, as I have done on the tactical pad, the goals that are in blue, outside the box, and in red, volleys. Because this is someone who can pull out like really, really spectacular moments. He can score goals from very little, and he can sort of turn what are sort of half-decent chances into pretty spectacular finishes. As you can see in the blue, lots of areas from outside the box, plenty of whip. He's able to find the corners really well. But as you can see, what's that, about 6-7 goals he scored? I think it's 7 volleys I've counted there. So often he's able to receive a ball high, let it sort of fall across his body and just thrash it into the back of the net. He's got brilliant technique, and he's got a really good eye for goal. This is someone who in the final third is really, really comfortable. I mean, let's start comparing him to some of the midfielders we've got, right? I think we've got a lot of players like Rice loves to drive into the space. Marino, I think, likes to run into space, across into the edge of the area, or sort of thrive off a little bit of service in that way. I think Kai Havertz is quite similar. Ødegaard likes to play with the game in front of him. I think if the ball is moving towards the final third, Ødegaard tends to step back a little bit, so he's got space to look up and create from there. I think Sancet is someone who likes to really get into the thick of it in terms of where the ball's going to end up in the area, but also find those spaces where he can have the decisive moment, not just let me sort of get the ball to then play another pass or find an assist. I think he's a midfielder who really, I think, can smell where a goal's going to come from. And I think he positions himself to be the final action player, to be the one on the end of moves. And I think that's a really nice compliment to the midfielders we've got. On top of that, like I said, he's got the height. Well, we've got some height in Marino and Rice. That's not too surprising. Of course, Partey, but I'm assuming he's not going to sign the new contract, or he's not been offered one, shall I say. But he's someone who's also got a lot of flair. When we talk back to goal, and when I say getting in the thick of things, I think this is a player who will receive the ball with a defender around him and happily take a touch to turn past, maybe win a foul, maybe try and spin a defender, maybe take one on, maybe go into the channels. And I think he does that a lot more than Martin Ødegaard, and I don't think Rice and Marino get quite high enough and have quite the flair and sort of, what's the word? It's kind of that, it's just skill. I mean, skill's the word. It's that kind of skill and flair to take players on. I think Sancet has a lot more of that from the bits that I've watched. Now, what I want to do is talk about why he's a really lovely compliment, like I said, to the players that we've got in our squad already. Now, what I've got here is Rice, Zubimendi, Ødegaard as the midfield three. We are operating, as Arsenal are, according to English journalists, on the assumption that Zubimendi is going to arrive. With Jorginho and Partey leaving, we're going to sign a six. So you could call Zubimendi something else. The point is, it looks like he's going to join, which I think is a great addition. I think we need a player like Zubimendi. And then we've got Rice and Ødegaard in positions they typically play. Now, forget Marino for a second and Sancet. What do we know? We know that Martinelli and Saka get into wide areas. We know that Rice will be more box-to-box. We know that Ødegaard might hang in this space. We know that he might come wide so that Saka can get central. We know all this stuff. We've seen it a million times before. We've talked about it a million times before on this channel. The reason I think Sancet's perfect is because Ødegaard, in poor form right now, take him out. You've got a natural, creative... is he creative? Okay, he's definitely a final third impact player. Whether he's super creative, I'm not 100% sure. But you've got someone here who attacks those channels really well when Saka is out on the touchline, or certainly has the attributes to do so. You've got someone who allows Rice, Zubimendi to tuck deep so that Sancet can get beyond and get on the edge of things as well. You got someone who, if we're talking about mixing other profiles too, you got someone who, you know what, you want to take Rice out, you can play Sancet, Zubimendi and Ødegaard. And why could you play that kind of midfield with, you know, a more sort of on-the-ball six in Zubimendi, not really known for his presence and his strength necessarily, with an Ødegaard there? Well, because Sancet stands at 6'1", 6'2", and you've still got a little bit of, what's the word? Yeah, physicality, height in that midfield, so the balance is still nicely there. You could therefore, I don't know, play Sancet on the left. If you want to keep Ødegaard in that position too, you could take Zubimendi out and play Rice. You could maybe move Ødegaard and then go for Marino. You could take Rice out, play Zubimendi. The point is, with Sancet in that midfield three, I think with Rice, Ødegaard and Marino and Zubimendi, who are really different players, they all have very, very different strengths. Sancet seems to complement almost all of them. Whichever six you pick, whichever box-to-box eight you pick, and whether you're trying to go for Sancet as a right eight, as a left eight, whatever, or if you're trying to press with the front two, Sancet has played as the 10. He's got good physicality about him. Football Manager rates him highly for things like off-the-ball aggression, things like that. So he'd be able to aid the press too in the absence of an Ødegaard. Or you want to keep Ødegaard in there, fine, not a problem. We know Ødegaard leads the press well, and you've got a 6'2" central midfielder alongside Zubimendi, or like I said, alongside Declan Rice. I mean, the point I'm trying to make, people, is attributes-wise, and again, what I want to do is get people like Ben Mattinson on the channel, right, who's a proper football scout and watches, you know, hours and hours of these players and get a real good idea. I'd love to chat to an Athletic Bilbao fan so we can learn his real strengths and weaknesses. I'm just going on his attributes, what I've seen online, the comps I've watched, what I know of the player, and how well he could complement what we already have. But like I said, Arsenal need a 10. That's hard to find. I don't really know... I don't know of many out there outside of Wirtz and Gibbs White, really. I think we need someone who is going to be a match winner for us, who can have moments from outside the box, who can have moments of quality with kind of almost little service, that can make things happen himself. I think Sancet has shown in his goals, go watch his goals in La Liga, that he can absolutely do that. But I think Arteta's also made it very, very clear that he has a clear vision in mind for this midfield three. It was Xhaka, Partey, Ødegaard. When Xhaka left, he actually wanted to go for Kai Havertz. Why? Because he was 6'4" and could enter the box, but he signed Declan Rice. When it didn't work for Havertz, he ultimately moved Rice away from the 6 to still get that kind of presence, and then he signed a Marino. So Sancet could, as a left 8, do all those things, but I think have a little bit more flair and final third match winning quality too. So if you're trying to take into account what Arteta's clearly shown he wants from his midfield 3, but someone who can push Ødegaard too, complement him, get Ødegaard in the left 8, fits all the kind of physical profiles and attributes that Mikel Arteta will want, but is going to add something new and unique to our midfield, I think Oihan Sancet might be the one, and dare I say the only one. But if you know more about this player, let me know in the comment section below. I think this is someone we should absolutely be looking at, and I think with Zubimendi, with Sancet and a striker, look, you're still spending a lot of money. We've heard the unprecedented summer stuff, but it shouldn't be, bank-breaking stuff. Yes, there's a big release clause there, but if you're readdressing your midfield, if you're losing Partey and Jorginho, and you're signing Zubimendi and Sancet for 110 million, something like that, and you're adding, you got one area, and you got Ødegaard, you got Rice, you got Marino, maybe Vieira gets another year, I think the midfield's in a really good position for next season. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, everyone. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and we'll catch you very soon.